Okay, let's get started. So you've done some homework, you've done some soul searching, you realize that you are absolutely cynical, neurotic, ruthless. You are absolutely the person who should be running a business of your own as opposed to working for somebody else. You've done your marketing homework, you've identified your customers, their fears and passions, and you have a bunch of products that you really think will sell in the marketplace. Okay, you've looked at your competitors, you've looked at the four different kinds of competitors that we talked about last time, and you've got strategies now for crushing every one of them. Now we have to kind of take a little bit of a digression here. We got to take a little bit of a detour, a side trip, and go somewhere where a lot of people don't go when they're doing a business plan, but it's a very important thing to do. We have to start talking now about people, and especially the people that are going to run the business. What we're going to be talking about for the next hour is how to build a management team, how to put together your management team, who should be on it, who should not be on it. How do you decide if you need a partner or not? How do you go about picking employees and the staff that are going to make things happen for you? How do you build your board of advisors, the people who are not part of your organization, but the people that will advise you on how to operate this business so you make as few mistakes as possible? We're going to be talking about your management team, the people that you're going to be working with, and the people on your board of advisors. That's what we're going to be spending the next hour or so talking about. So let's get started. I find that loners in general make terrible entrepreneurs. I really do believe that. Loners, they make excellent professionals sometimes, doctors, lawyers, architects, but if you've got the loner gene, it's very rare to see a successful entrepreneur who is not a team builder. Most businesses, sooner or later, will outgrow you. You cannot operate indefinitely as just one person. You're going to have to add people at some point. And it's a good idea to start thinking early on about who are these people? Who are the people I need to be working with? Who should be in my business? Who should not be in my business? How do I go about making these kinds of decisions? Okay, now we're not going to talk a lot about personnel and HR. We're going to talk about some things that are just more basic here. Loners in general, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you have to have partners. I mean, some of my most successful clients are sole proprietors in the legal sense of that term, meaning that they're the only legal owner of the business. They don't have partners or anything like that. But loners in general do very, very well, do not tend to do very, very well. A prominent small business speaker will say, an entrepreneur at the end of the day is a team builder. It's someone who's trying to build an organization. If you're just working out of an office, somewhere and it's only going to be just you, you are not an entrepreneur. Call yourself whatever else you like, but you're not really an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship is all about growing something, and you can't grow something without adding people. So right now, some of you are looking at me, and I can tell exactly what you're saying. Well, all right, I hear what Cliff's saying, but right now, at least for the foreseeable future, it's going to be me, myself, and I. But don't assume that it's always going to be that way. In fact, it may not be that way today. I'm also seeing some of you, especially some of you who are obviously couples, who are looking at me saying, well, it's obvious. I'm going to work with her. She's going to work with me. We like each other. We may be married to each other. We may have a relationship. We've always wanted to do more together. I've got this old friend from college or something, my old roommate. I always wanted to do things with her, so we're going to get together and we're going to sell on eBay. We're going to do all kinds of stuff. Don't get me wrong. Your friends, your lovers, the people who are your significant others in life may well be your best business partners, but not because you like them and not because you have a relationship with them. In fact, a relationship can be a handicap in some respects in working with somebody, and I'll explain how that is in a few minutes. So let's talk about partners, for example. Let's start with partners. How do you know you need a partner? And by a partner, I mean not someone who works for you, someone who's in the business with you day in and day out. They're rolling up their sleeves. They're working 80 to 90 hours a week, often for minimum wages and even less, to help you build this business. That's what a partner is. A partner is someone who's shoulder to shoulder with you in the trenches every day. Do I need somebody like that to run this business? Well, before you can make that decision, you have to ask another more basic question. You have to sit back, look at the operation of your business, look at how it's going to run, and ask yourself, what are the essential activities of this business? What are the things that must be done very well or perfectly in order for this business to be successful? Every business has essential activities and non-essential activities. The essential activities are things that have to be done perfectly or extremely well in order for the business to be successful. Generally speaking, they are the things that give you your competitive advantage. If you don't know where to begin with this, ask yourself, what is my competitive advantage? Why are people coming to me as opposed to my competitors? Those are some of your essential activities. Whatever it is you're doing that's causing people to come to you rather than your competition are some of the essential activities you have to think about. And you'd be surprised. It may not have anything to do with the actual conduct of the business. So for example, in my law practice, I operate a solo law practice. I do a lot of work with small business people. Certainly I have to do my work, do it well, otherwise I get sued for malpractice, which has never happened, thank God. But it theoretically could, so that keeps me on my toes. The fear of that keeps me on my toes. But one of the most essential activities of my business, believe it or not, is getting my bills out on time every month. Most of the work that I do for clients, I charge by the hour, right? So if you're a client of mine and you give me a project to do and I do it and I send you the contract and everything's fine, how much do you pay me? Well, before you know how much to pay me, you got to know how much time I put in, right? Did I put in an hour? Did I put in 2 hours? At what rate, right? I got to tell you that. You're not just going to open your checkbook and send me a blank check and say, here, Cliff, fill it out when the job's done. Just tell me how much it is. I've never had a client do that in 35 years, and I don't expect that will ever happen, ever. You know, in order for you to pay me, in order for me to make money, I got to tell you on thus and such a date, I did X hours of work at Y dollars, and this is what I did, and everything like that. I got to tell you that, and until you get that invoice, you're not going to pay me, right? So what I do, I send my invoices out at the end of every month, and they're net 30, which means you get 30 days to pay me, right? If I forget to send my invoices out on time, I don't make money. If I send my invoices out 10, 15 days later, the client automatically assumes they have 30 days from that point to pay me, which means I don't get paid for 45 days, sometimes 60 days. I do get paid eventually, but the point is when the bill is late, the client feels that I can't send a bill saying pay me on receipt or next week. Every client assumes that they have 30 days to pay a bill. They do. So if I send my bills out late, the payment coming in is going to be late as well. So I have to send my bills out on time. What I do at the end of every month, the last day of the calendar month, I don't care how busy I am. I don't care if I'm in the middle of the world's worst acquisition. On the morning of the last day of each calendar month, I turn the world off, I turn the phone off, I turn the email off, and I just do my bills. I do my bills myself because my bills have to tell a story. No client is ever going to pay a bill saying for services rendered ... $5,000. I can't bill like that. I got to tell the story, explain what I did, and it's also a good exercise for me too, because that way I see things where maybe I did go a little crazy, I spent too much time on something I shouldn't have, and I can fix that before the client gets the bill. The client doesn't even see that additional time. It helps you figure out, would I pay this bill, you know, if I got it in the mail? It helps you do that kind of thinking. So it's a good idea to do bills yourself. Don't delegate that to anybody else, unless of course you're so big that you have to use a bookkeeper. I do it myself. But the morning of the last day of each calendar month, I am doing these bills, and I don't let anything interrupt me. And as soon as I'm finished with the last bill, I take them to the UPS store and I put them in the mail, so that they go out that day, the last day of the month. So the client gets them a couple of days later, first, second day of each month. If I do that every month, the money comes in before the end of the following month. It always does. If I slip, if I go late, that's when I have to wait 45, 60 days, sometimes longer, to get paid. And it's partly my fault because I let that happen. Now, that's not true of every business, by the way. But it is true of mine, at least, that getting your invoices out on time is an essential, even though it doesn't have anything to do with the practice of law. It doesn't have anything to do. Here's the best example I ever had. One of my very first clients when I was starting out in practice, this is about 30 years ago now, or 25 years ago, was a fashion designer, and she had a very interesting specialty. She was in the bridal market, you know, for brides, and she made bridal veils. That was her thing. She didn't sell them at retail. She wasn't a retailer. What she did was she worked for fashion houses. You know, the big couture houses in New York. From the fashion district, and it was at Madison Avenue. She actually was, or 7th Avenue actually, she worked with just about every major fashion house of the 1980s that did bridal stuff. And her competitive advantage, her claim to fame, was that if you sent her your sketches of what you wanted the bridal veil to look like, she could turn around a prototype, an actual working model, in 10 days or less. Now today, you're kind of laughing at me. With today's technology, of course, you have CAD/CAM software and stuff like that. You know, people in the fashion industry now can do this like 10 times a day in real time. But back in the 1980s, it was a real advantage to be able to turn a working prototype of a bridal veil around in 10 days or less. Her nearest competitor needed 45 days to turn a prototype around. She was able to do it in 10. That was a huge competitive advantage for her, right? So clearly, what was one of her essential activities? Making sure orders got filled within 10 days or less. So far, so good? Okay, well, here's what happened. One day she called me. She said, hey, Cliff, listen, quick question for you. I found this person who's absolutely I'm a little tired of traveling around the country attending trade shows, to be honest with you. I got a couple of small kids. I really don't want to do this. I found this woman. She's absolutely fabulous. She knows the bridal industry inside and out. People know her in the industry. I'm going to make her my VP of marketing. I'm going to send her on the road. I'm going to give her some equity in the company. We're going to do I want to marry this person. I don't want this person working for somebody else. I want to own this person. I want her as my VP of marketing. Now, Cliff, I hope you don't mind. I know you're going to say I need an employment agreement, right? You do. I was in my library last week and I came across this wonderful book called How to Draft Your Own Employment Agreements, and I saw a form in there that looked pretty good, so I just made a few changes to it. Do you mind? I don't have a lot of money this month. Would you just take it like a little bit of time and just look at it to make sure I didn't foul up too badly, I didn't make too many mistakes? And I kind of rolled my eyes skyward because I said to myself, oh God, I've seen these forms in the backs of books. They're usually from the wrong state. They have nothing to do with the fashion industry. They're for some manufactured industrial product or something like that, you know. But because she was a good client, I said, okay, here's the deal. Send me the contract. I'll look at it. I'll only bill you for an hour. I won't bill you any more than that, okay? Okay, Cliff, thank you. I'll send it over by fax. Now you know it's 20 years ago. She was sending it by fax, not by email, okay? So when I hung up the phone, I said, oh man, what did I do? I'm going to lose money on this, you know, because I've seen these contracts. They're horrible. It's going to take me probably 3 hours to clean this mess up, and I'm only going to bill her an hour. Well, the fax machine starts up. The contract comes through. I look at it, and it's perfect. Absolutely letter perfect. It is every bit as good as what I would have done for her. In fact, it was actually a little bit better. She actually thought of something. All the things were in the right place. All the correct state law was in there. Everything was exactly where it should be. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't improve it. It was absolutely a perfect job that she had done. You know, and yes, I did go out and buy the book. Yes, I did go out and buy that. It was actually a pretty good book, actually. So I called her up and I said, hey, Mary, not her real name. I said, hey, Mary, I got good news for you. I'm not even going to charge you an hour for this. I can't improve this. This is perfect. You did a great job here. Just make sure she signs in the right place. Keep a copy for your files, and off you go. By the way, while we're talking house business, oh, Cliff, I'm in a real jam. I've fallen 15 days behind on turnaround orders, on turning around my orders. This is a business in which she guarantees turnaround within 10 days, and she fell 15 days. She was taking 25 days to turn around orders. Do you see what a disaster that is? And I was shocked. I said, hey, Mary, forgive me, you're one of the better managers I know. How did you get into this mess? And she goes, well, Cliff, I've been so busy with that damn contract the last 2 weeks, I haven't had time to think about anything else. Okay, so now for the pop quiz. Did she save money on legal fees by doing it herself? Yes, no, she did. I didn't charge her a penny, did I? She saved money on legal fees, right? Okay. Question number 2, did she do as good a job as I would have done for her or any lawyer would have done for her? The answer is yeah. She did a beautiful job, probably a little bit better. Question number 3, did she do the right thing for her business? No. She lost clients because of that problem. She got so caught up on a non-essential activity that she let the essential activities slide. And that is one of the big mistakes that entrepreneurs make all the time. They get so caught up on the non-essential stuff that they let the essential stuff slide. Here are the rules when it comes to essential and non-essential activity. And by the way, this constantly changes. You realize after a while that some activities are not as essential as you thought they were. Sometimes you find out that non-essential things are becoming more essential. This is a constantly changing landscape. But once you've identified the essential activities, and anything that's not an essential activity is a non-essential activity, here's the rules. Rule number 1, the essential activities are the things you must do yourself. You never delegate these, except to a partner. These are the essential activities of the business, the things that must be done perfectly or extremely well for the business to survive. These are the things that you and your partners must do yourselves. Why? Because they must be done perfectly or extremely well. No one, no employee, no lawyer, no accountant, nobody is going to do those things as well as you do them. And your partners, because you've got skin in the game. This is your life and death here. This is your livelihood. You will spend the amount of time getting the essential activities right. Other people will not do as good a job. You never delegate the essential activities. Those are the things you do yourself. Rule number 2, everything else, the non-essential activities, delegate them all. Never delegate the essential activities, always delegate the non-essential activities. Get other people to do them, because otherwise what happens is you end up getting distracted on non-essential activities, and you can almost lose your business the way that bridal veil designer did, my early client. She didn't lose her business, but she came very close. She lost a couple of key clients because she missed their deadlines. You miss a client deadline, you're going to lose that client. It's that simple. Okay, so those are the rules. Now that I've told you that, I can tell you whether or not you need a partner. Okay? What you do, first of all, is you identify the essential activities of the business, and then you look at the list and you ask yourself, can I do all of these things myself? Can I do them all myself? Can I do all 5 of these things myself? And by the way, the list is usually not very long. For most businesses, you're going to find the essential activities are only about 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 things, tops. There are not 30 essential activities in most of the basic businesses that you're looking to set up. Okay, maybe if you're operating a Fortune 1000 corporation, there's a lot more. But for most small businesses, it's only about 3, 4, 5, 6 things. It's not a long laundry list of things you have to do, perfectly to keep the business running. And as you get on in business, you realize you start taking more and more off, because not every activity is as essential as you think it is when you're first getting started. But you do your list of essential activities. If you can do them all yourself, guess what? You don't need a partner. You can do everything yourself. You might want to hire a couple of employees, some contractors, whatever. But you can do everything yourself. You don't need to bring on a partner at all. You can do 100% of the stuff yourself. If there are essential activities you cannot do yourself, well, then you do need a partner to do the essential activities that you cannot do yourself. And maybe there's a little overlap, maybe there isn't. But that's why you need a partner. You don't need a partner because you like them or because you have a relationship with them. Okay, you need the partner because they can do some of the essential activities that you cannot do. That's why you need a partner in the business. Anybody that you like that overlaps with you, where the two of you can do the same essential activities, but they can't do the other stuff that you cannot do, that's not a good partnership relationship at all. You're duplicating effort there. What you're looking for is not somebody that you like. You're looking for someone who complements you, not with an I, with an E. C-O-M-P-L-E-M-E-N-T, complements them. Somebody who makes up for your shortcomings. So if keeping the book straight is an essential activity of your business and you suffer from math anxiety, getting somebody who can do the books you want a partner who's a very good bookkeeper and can handle the numbers of your business. Okay? Likewise, if you're a technician, if you're an engineer or a technology person, and the thought of selling makes you break out into a cold sweat, you need someone who can handle the selling and the customer relations. This is what I'm talking about here. You need somebody who complements you. I always find the best partnerships are a combination of a Mr. or Ms. inside and a Mr. or Ms. outside. Because you need both. The Mr. or Ms. outside is the visionary. They're the ones who have the idea, what the first President Bush called the vision thing. They're the ones who get the business. They know who the customers are. They know what the mission of the business is. They're the ones that deal with the business and its relationship to the outside world. They're the face of the business to the outside world. That's the Mr. or Ms. outside. The Mr. or Ms. inside is a process person. They're the ones, they're focused on detail. What they say to the outside person is, okay, Mr. or Ms. Outside, that's a great vision, that's a good business plan. Now here's how we're going to get there. First we're going to do this, then we're going to do this, then we're going to raise $1 million from venture capitalists, then we're going to do this, then we're going to do this. They're the ones who take the skeleton that the outside person develops and they put the flesh, the bone, and the internal organs onto this thing so that what you end up with is a real business, a living, breathing thing is what you get. And you need them both. You cannot say that one is better than the other. Every business needs a Mr. or Ms. Outside and a Mr. or Ms. Inside. What happens when a business has too many Mr. or Ms. Outsides, but not enough inside people? When there's too many outside people and not many inside people, what happens in a business like that? Well, a lot of great castles get built in the air and a lot of great plans get made, but nothing gets done because no one is executing those plans. That's what happens in that kind of a business, okay? What happens on the other hand now where you got a business where there's a lot of inside people but no outside people, no visionaries, okay? What happens in a business like that? The answer is a lot of stuff gets done but nothing gets sold. That's the problem. You know, the technicians are spending all time doing bells and whistles and different iterations of things and different versions. You ever tried to program your DVD player or you know what I'm talking about here? Far too many options, right? This is what happens. You get a DVD player. When you have a lot of engineers running the company, but no outside people saying, you know what, the customers don't really need that. What they really need are just 3 different options. If you do that, they'll be fine. You need to have both of these brains going on in any company. And I hate to say it, in my experience, but unless you're schizophrenic or suffer from dissociative identity disorder, where you have multiple personalities, you are not both of those people. You're either a Mr. or Ms. inside or a Mr. or Ms. outside. And the sooner you recognize which one you are, that's great. Accept it. Don't try to fight it. But don't try to be both. If you're a Mr. or Ms. inside, get some Mr. or Ms. outside people to work with you, and vice versa. If you're a visionary, if you're a dreamer, if you're someone who doesn't do a lot of detail stuff, get some insiders, get some minions working for you that can handle all the details and build all the stuff and do all the planning and all that kind of stuff. You need both of those mindsets to make a business run. Okay, so that's how you decide on partners. Deciding on employees, contractors, that's a much different kind of analysis. We'll talk about it a little bit in the legal part of this class. But I just want to make the point that you'd never, ever delegate to an employee the essential activities. For 2 reasons. Number 1, they will not do as good a job as you do. And secondly, if they do, all of a sudden they're going to start stealing stuff from you, and they're going to start acting as if they were a partner. I have seen too many businesses where the secretary or the admin assistant became so essential to the operation of the business that they couldn't be fired. You know, even though there were good reasons to fire them, they were stealing from the till, they were doing bad stuff, but because they knew all the customers, they knew all the client files in their head, the boss couldn't let them go, because if he did, his business would collapse. Never let an employee become so essential to the operation of your business that it's no longer your business but theirs. That happens sometimes. Okay, so now we've talked about the essential activities and your partners. And don't get me wrong, that person may well be your spouse or significant other or college roommate. I'm not saying it can't be somebody you like. Although I will tell you something, liking somebody doesn't always make for good business relationships. Sometimes some of the best partnerships I've ever worked with were partnerships where the partners didn't like each other all that much. You know, they didn't hate each other. They weren't fighting every day long, but they didn't socialize with each other. There was no personal relationship there. I mean, there are times in a business relationship where you got to tell your partner, "Look, you idiot! Why are you doing this for? We got problems." It's very hard to do that with someone you love. With someone you love, you're always going to pull your punches a little bit when there's an emotional relationship of any kind there. You got to be in a relationship with somebody where if you got to tell it like it is, you tell it like it is. And never mind what the other person thinks about you. There's time when you got to use some foul language to get your partner back on board if they're going ahead in a bad direction. That's very hard to do with your spouse or your significant other. So be very careful about it. Be careful of mixing personal relations. Some people can do it. I've worked with some marvelous husband-wife partnerships or significant other partnerships. I can't say it can't be done. It certainly can. But you have to be able to compartmentalize. You got to be able to say, this is the way we are in business and this is the way we are outside of business. And make sure you always know where you are at any given time. Okay, so what about those non-essential activities? I only got one more thing to talk about here. What about the non-essential activities? Okay, the essential activities, that's you and your partners, but who do you delegate the non-essential activities for? Every business needs what we call a board of advisors. Now, some of you have done some reading. If you're starting a technology company, one of the big pieces of advice they give, to create a board of advisors. Okay, get a great board of advisors behind you. These are the people that you want to handle the non-essential activities. Now, if that bridal veil designer had given me that contract to do, that contract with the VP of marketing, how long do you think it would have taken me to do that contract? An hour? Maybe? How many of you think that that's a big bill? It's not a big bill at all. I've been doing employment agreements for 35 years of my life. It's not a big deal to do one of these things. It's only 3 or 4 pages long usually. It would have been 1 hour of my time, which given the fact that she was a good client, I would have let her have more than 30 days to pay that bill. See, if she had let me do that contract for her, I could have saved a lot of time for her. See, people ask me, what do I do as a lawyer? What do I do? I don't say I practice law or I do contracts or whatever. I'm a small business lawyer. What I say is I help my clients manage their time. Given enough time, all of you in this room can learn to do contracts every bit as good as I do them. No question. If you spend a few months of your life working with legal treatises and the different kinds of forms and comparing them side by side, you can learn over a few months to draft contracts every bit as good as I can, every bit as well as I can. You can do that. It's not rocket science what I do. It's just manipulating words in the English language. A lot of you guys do that for a living already. But here's the trick. How long is it going to take you to do that contract? How long is it going to take you to do that 3 or 4 page contract? It's probably going to take you a couple of weeks, like it did my bridal veil designer. I can do it in an hour. And that gives you all that time to spend on your essential activities. We are the people that you want to work with on your board of advisors are your time managers. They're the ones that help you manage your time so you don't get caught up in non-essential activities that kill your business. Okay? And you need specifically 5 different people, more if you can do it, but you need 5 different people on your team. First of all, a good accountant, essential, or accountant / bookkeeper, somebody who can do both. Every business at the end of the day boils down to numbers, and the numbers tell stories. Accountants and bookkeepers are what I call storytellers. They take the raw numbers from your business, your sales figures, your expense figures, all that stuff, and they put them together into financial statements that tell a story about how your business is doing, okay? The numbers tell the stories. If you do not know the numbers of your business, you have no idea how your business is doing. Is it doing well? Is it doing poorly? A good accountant, a good bookkeeper can help you with this. Okay, and it's good if you can get somebody who can do both, that's great. The bookkeeper is someone who takes your raw numbers and puts them into a format that accountants can understand. The accountant is the storyteller who looks at the numbers and says how well you're doing. Hey Cliff, you're spending a lot of money on paper clips over here. You know, why are you spending so much money on paper clips? I mean, I know you're a paper-driven business, but you shouldn't be spending $300 a month on paper clips. What's going on here? Talk to your employees, somebody's ripping you off here. You know, those paper clips are disappearing somewhere. They're not showing up in your inventory. This is a problem. This is how you find out if employees are ripping you off, by the way. Is your accountant, sometimes your accountant will see things that you don't because he or she is not in the business every day working in the trenches with you. They see things, they're looking at things from 5,000 miles up and they'll see things that you do not see. Okay, so a good accountant, a good bookkeeper is essential. Second person, a good lawyer. You didn't think I was going to leave that out, did you? But not a courtroom lawyer, not what we call a litigator. A litigator is someone who fights battles in court for their clients. You do not need a litigator. You want somebody who can keep you out of court. If you're being sued and you need a litigator to help you to fight that battle in court, chances are your business is already dead at that point. All it takes is one lawsuit to kill a small business. It does. The time involved, the expense, the fact that you have to go into depositions every 3 days and leave your store closed while you're dealing with depositions, that can kill your business. Not just the money and the legal fees, it's the time involved in dealing with that problem can kill a lot of small businesses when there's only 1 or 2 people involved who are essential to the operation of the business. That's a classic case of being caught up in a non-essential activity that kills the essential activities, is getting involved in a lawsuit. You want a lawyer who can keep you out of court. You know, I confess to you, I've been practicing law for 35 years. I have only seen the inside of a courtroom on 2 occasions. Once when I was sworn into the New York bar, second when I was sworn into the Connecticut bar. That's it. I don't do any litigation. I don't do any courtroom work. My job is keeping my clients out of court. Whenever a client of mine gets sued, an angel dies. That's how I look at life. I have failed in my mission if a client is getting sued by somebody. You want a client who's very good with contracts. There's a lot of things you can do with little pieces of paper that can keep lawsuits at bay. We're going to talk about that when we talk about the legal stuff. I'm going to talk about exactly what you have to do to keep from getting sued. But that's in a couple of nights from now. That's actually next week. There are pieces of paper that you can do. There are ways you can protect yourself from liability by forming LLCs and corporations and doing the necessary paperwork. There's things you need to do for taxes. There's agreements you need to have with your employees. This is what you want, a good contracts attorney who can basically be your internist. You go to him or her with your problem, and if they can fix it, they will, or if not, they'll help you find a specialist. You do not have time looking for specialist attorneys. Okay, patent lawyers, FDA lawyers, whatever. You want your general counsel, your main lawyer, to be able to find that person for you, and they deal with them so you don't have to. That's what you want. You want somebody who not just can do all the work for you, but can also manage your relationship with other lawyers that you may need to get to run your business, is what you want, okay? Thirdly, a good insurance person. I cannot stress this often enough. Every business has risks. And you need somebody who can help you with the insurance that you need to protect yourself against those risks should they happen. There's different kinds of business insurance. We're going to talk about them when we talk about the legal stuff in this class. But for now, I just want to stress that a good insurance person is an essential member of your team, because they not only can help you get the coverage you want, they can get you the coverage you need. I have a great story about this, which I will tell. My insurance agent literally saved my career. I owe my very career to my insurance person. When I was first starting to practice on my own, I knew I needed malpractice insurance. I wasn't going to practice naked. I wanted to have coverage in case somebody sued me, even though it's never happened. I wanted coverage. So I went to an attorney who did a lot of liability insurance, and she helped me get my malpractice policy. I'd never done that before. I'd always worked for big law firms where somebody else handled that kind of stuff for us. But now I had to do it for myself. So I hired this person. She did a great job. She got several policy quotes. We went back and forth. We picked the policy that was most affordable that I could handle, and we signed up with the insurance company. As I was getting up to leave her office, she said, "Cliff, sit back down again. We're not done here. We've taken care of your malpractice policy," and I agree, that's the first thing you should have fixated on, "but I am not going to let you leave this office unless you sign up for some disability insurance, some short-term and long-term disability." I said, "Wait a minute, hold on. First of all, I know that's very expensive coverage, first of all. It's not cheap. Any kind of short-term, long-term disability. But more importantly than that, how does a lawyer become disabled? I'm working with my mind. I'm working with my brain. As long as my brain is functioning, as long as I'm not in a coma, I can practice law. So how does a lawyer, get disabled in such a way that he can't practice law?" So she goes, "Okay, bear with me for a second, Cliff. You say you're going to be working, you're starting your own practice, right?" "Yes." "Where are you going to work?" "Out of my home, most of the time. I have an office. Some local law firms will let me use their offices part-time if I need them, but I'm pretty much going to work out of my house because I want to keep the cost of my clients low." "Okay, so you're going to be working out of your home, okay? When a client wants to meet you, are you going to meet your clients in the home?" "No." "Where are you going to meet them?" "My wife will kill me." Where are you going to meet these clients?" "Okay, I'll meet them in their offices, or if not, a local restaurant, local diner, whatever is convenient." "Okay. And how are you going to get there, Cliff?" "I'm going to drive." "Okay. Now, you spend a lot of time in Vermont and New Hampshire. You like to ski during the wintertime. You're shushing down a mountain. You slip, you fall, you break your right ankle. Okay, I can still practice law." "Yes, you can still practice law, Cliff, but you can't drive a car. You cannot drive a car without a right foot, a functioning right foot." Think about that. As you're driving home tonight, if anything ever happened to your right foot, your right ankle, your right leg, you cannot drive a car. Someone is going to have to drive you everywhere. And do you have that person? No. Okay. My wife works. I can't count on her. I can't ask her to help me that way. Great. So that's why I'm suggesting you get at least some good short-term disability coverage in case that happens. You're going to have to basically put your practice on hold until you heal. Okay. All right. I see where you're going. Okay. Fine. Just try not to kill me too much, because it is expensive coverage. Well, I'm awfully glad I had that coverage, I will tell you, because about 8-9 years later, I was grilling hamburgers on my grill in the backyard. And where we live is kind of a windy area. It's a former rock quarry, so the wind kind of blows around a lot. And we have very creative ways of making sure that our grill covers do not blow around and end up in our neighbors' yards. My solution was very low tech. I had a 35-pound rock that I used to put on top of my grill cover to keep it in place so it wouldn't blow away. And I cannot tell you how many hundreds of times I had taken the rock off, taken the grill cover off, done my greening, cleaned the grill, put the cover on, put the rock on without incident. But on this day, I picked up the rock, and I don't know, maybe my hands were sweaty, they were greasy, my mind was on something else. The rock fell out of my hand, fell 5 feet onto my bare right foot, and smashed everything in the top half of my foot. You have no idea what pain is until you have done something like that. You have no idea how stupid you feel until you have done something like that. And what was even worse, my neighbor's 2 small children were playing in the backyard while this happened. Do you know what it is to drop a 35-pound rock on your feet, on your bare foot, and you cannot curse? Do you know what that is? I started to, the kids saw it, and I was like, "Okay, kids, I'm okay, sugar. I got neighbors to this day who think I'm diabetic to this day because of this. They thought I was having an insulin attack or something like that. I just didn't want the poor kids to be upset. Don't worry, kids, it's just like the cartoons. I'm okay. Oh, God, oh, God. I was like crawling. One minute I'm doing hamburgers, next time I'm crawling across the yard like that Christina's World painting, the Andrew Wyeth painting, crawling across the yard. It was horrible, I can't tell you. And I was out of action for about 4 months. I was in a hard cast. Fortunately, thank God, I didn't have to have metal pieces put in, but I was out of action for 4 months. Thank goodness I had that disability policy. You know, I would not have been able to function. I would have brought in zero revenue for 4 months while I was recovering from that stupid injury. Okay, your insurance agent can save your life. Okay. Last but not least, okay, no, 4. A mentor or mentors, preferably more than one. Okay, a mentor is someone who has walked the walk before you. A mentor can be a family member. A mentor can be a SCORE counselor. Some of you know about the SCORE program. It's a nationwide volunteer program of mostly older business people who are semi-retired, and they volunteer their time to help start up businesses for free. This is a free service. Wherever you are, if you go to score.org online, SCORE.org, and type in your zip code, you'll find the SCORE chapter nearest you. These are very nice people, and very often they have done exactly the same business that you have done, that you want to do. If you're a contractor, certainly, any kind of contractor, they have retired contractors who volunteer their time to help the younger contractors make sure they don't make mistakes. It's a wonderful program. Some people go to trade shows to find these people. When you go to a trade show, don't just look at the booths. Look at the people in the audience and look for people with gray hair. Because a lot of retired people go to trade shows to sort of keep in touch with their industries, what they used to do and stuff like that. And they have time to have a cup of coffee once a week with somebody like you who's just getting off the ground. They love it. Their spouse is anxious for them to get out of the house anyway because they're driving them nuts. You know, you're actually helping them with their marriage probably by doing this. But get them out, you know, find a mentor. Find someone who has done this before. Don't get me wrong, you're still going to make mistakes. But with a good mentor on hand, you won't make the stupid ones that most novice, business owners make. A good mentor has worked their way through goal, even if the fit isn't perfect. So for example, if you're doing some kind of software application, well, I don't think there's too many retired software executives. I think the average age for software executives is like 40 or something like that. They're not ready to retire. But you might find some retired publishing people. And those are good people to know because when you're looking to distribute a software product, it's a publishing model. The contracts that are used for software licensing and distribution are very similar to publishing contracts, and a publishing executive can help you a lot with that part. They don't understand the technology, they don't understand the coding and how the product is made, but they can help you with your distribution and your marketing of your software product because it's a publishing model. It's something that they're very familiar with. Okay? Last but not least, your spouse or significant other should be a mentor, a member of your board of advisors. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you should make that person your partner. I could give a whole class on whether or not you should partner with your spouse. But your spouse should at least be an advisor to the business. They should know at least enough about what you're doing so they can tell you how the business is affecting your personal life. Look, I mean, it's the oldest cliche in the world. Having a business is like having a baby. Anybody here have a baby? Okay. When you had your first baby, you probably found yourself thinking, well, you know what? We're going to have this baby and it's going to be great, but we're still going to be the same people. Our lives aren't going to change all that much. We're not going to let it change. We're still going to be the same people we are today. Is it true? You're all looking at me. You're all laughing at me. You know it's not true, right? No, babies change you. They change your whole life around. They change you 100. That's what they do, by the way. That's their job. That's why they get paid. Okay, that's why they get paid the big bucks. Babies do this to you. Babies totally change your life. And small businesses will do this too. A small business is just like a baby. When you start a small business, you are not going to be the same person in 2 or 3 years that you are today. You're going to be a very different animal, a completely different bird. And your other 4 advisors, your accountant, your lawyer, your insurance person, your mentor, these people don't care about any of that. But this person does. Because they see it every day. They see you changing. And you want that feedback. You want to know how the business is changing you. Are you becoming a better person? Or are you becoming a worse person? Does your spouse not like you as much because of what's going on in your life? Maybe you're spending so much time on the business, you're ignoring them. You need to have that kind of feedback from your spouse. I mean, here's a silly example. Let's say, for example, that you're an avid golfer. You love to play golf. Every Saturday, you have a foursome with 3 of your best buddies. These are 3 of your closest friends in the world. And you always have this golf foursome. That Saturday morning golf course foursome is the highlight of your week. One morning you wake up and you get an idea for a retail business, a retail store. And let's say it's a really good idea. There's nothing like it in the area. There's huge demand for the product. People are having trouble finding it. It's definitely a business that's going to fly. You actually find space you can afford in a great commercial location, a great shopping strip next to a big anchor tenant. All the arrows are pointing up. Your accountant loves it. Your lawyer loves it. Your insurance person loves it. All your mentors think this is going to make you a rich person. You're going to become the next retail mogul, right? Well, there's one problem here, though. What's the busiest day in retail? Saturday. That's the busiest day in retail. If you're in retail, you don't take off on Saturdays. There goes your golf foursome. That's going to go bye-bye. I mean, maybe some of these people can play golf in the middle of the week on Wednesday when you're not that busy, but some of them probably won't. You're not just going to be giving up the foursome, you're going to be giving up these friendships. These are 3 of your closest friends. You may lose touch with them because you're no longer available to play golf every week with them like you always did. You may be giving up the game of golf altogether. I can relate to this, believe it or not, because I used to be a scratch golfer. I had a 10 handicap at one point when I was in college, and a couple of years afterwards, I actually thought about turning like semi-pro at one point to make some extra money. Well, let me tell you, when I went to law school, that came to an end, a real hurry. When you're working 90 hours a week reading cases, you don't have time to play golf. Okay, and 90 hours a week, 100 hours a week. When you're in law school, you get totally immersed. And when you come out and you go through your internship at a big law firm, it's even worse. You sleep at the law firm 3 nights a week is what it's like. I can't tell you the last time I played golf. I didn't play golf for about, I remember the first golf game that I played was 12 years after I went to law school. I didn't play golf for 12 years at all. And believe me, I was not a scratch golfer at the end of that 12-year period. You may be giving up the game of golf, one of life's more enjoyable activities. Again, it doesn't matter. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you should give up on the business and focus on your golf game, but my point is these 4 people here aren't going to care. This is the person who's going to say, hey, by the way, Bill, just so you know, that golf foursome you have on Saturday, that's not going to happen anymore. You realize that. How do you feel about that? They're the ones who are more likely to pick up on something like that than the other 4 people will. And by the way, just to close out, this is one of the most hardest things about running a small business. Very often, your business will change you. You will not be the same person years from now that you are today. You're going to be a lot more cynical, a lot more neurotic, a lot more ruthless probably than you are today, and your spouse or significant other is going to pick up on that. Maybe they can go along for the ride, maybe they can't. But one of the hardest choices you will ever have to make, and one of the toughest situations you will ever be in, is a situation where you've got a successful business, it's taking off, it's going very well, but your spouse or significant other doesn't want to go along for the ride because they don't like what you're becoming. You're becoming something different. I pity you if you find yourself in that situation. If you ever find yourself in that situation, and you're in this area, call me. We'll go out to a bar. I will treat you to a drink and we will discuss it. But very often, being an entrepreneur requires having to choose between a business and a loved one. I hope to God that it doesn't happen to any of you here in this room or listening in on the video. But I've seen it happen to my clients all the time. And when it does, it's one of life's hardest things to choose between a spouse or significant other who's not willing to live the entrepreneurial dream with you and a business that's that has the potential to take off and make you wildly successful beyond your wildest dreams. It's one of the hardest choices you will ever have to make. And I hope that none of you ever have to make it.